This is a 2008 Lexus IS250. Going to be replacing the hub assembly, the rear hub assembly for both the passenger and driver. First thing you're going to have to do is take the wheel off, obviously, to get to the system that you're going to be replacing. After you take the wheel off, you got to take off this brake caliper. The brake caliper has two 14mm bolts. I've already loosened them up back here, but you're going to have two 14mm bolts that you have to take off. There's one on the top and then one down in here right at the bottom. Once you take this caliper off, you really don't have to, you don't have to take the brakes off. If you don't want to, you can leave them there. But what I do suggest is once you take this caliper off, don't leave it. You don't want to put any pressure on this this brake line here. You can either place it up here somewhere, but I'm actually going to use a coat hanger, a wire hanger, and hang it on here, so it does, you know, there's no chance of it falling down and actually putting any tension on that brake line. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'm going to go to the next step and show you here in a second. So I've taken the brake caliper off, and I've went ahead and put used a wire hanger to just hang it here so there's not any tension on the brake line. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the disc brakes here. You'll notice there's a couple of holes here with some threads on them. These are actually used to pull off the disc brake. You can put a couple of bolts in here, and then make sure, if you've had this on for a long time, these tend to rust around this edge here, and it makes it really difficult to pop these things out. But put a little lubricant on there, and then run a couple of bolts through here, and just kind of go back and forth on the bolts. And what it's going to do, it's going to push this disc out for you, and it's going to pop off. Once it gets to a certain distance right here on this lip right here, it's going to go ahead and just pop right on out. But that's what these threads are for, so you can pop this out a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then continue to the next step. So I went ahead and put the bolts in here to kind of show you how this works. It's pretty self-explanatory. You put bolt there, this is going to come out, so you can, and I did lube this around here. I put some of this lubricant that I got here from AutoZone. You can use anything, WD or whatever, but so all you got to do is just turn these one side at a time. Eventually this thing's going to pop out. Looks like it's already coming out. It's already loose. See, it's already loose. So that'll help pull the this disc brake out, and we'll continue with the next part of this in a second. So the next step is to remove this nut that's on here. It's a 32mm 12 point. This is what I'm using here. And what you need to do to get that off, you see it's notched in right here so that the nut doesn't come loose. You're gonna have to actually pry that out before taking this nut right here off of there. Once we do that, we're gonna have to remove some bolts on the back. That's going to be the next step after this. So I took off the 4 bolts that go on the back. As you can see right in there, that's where one of the bolts is. These 4 bolts, when they loosen up, they don't come completely out. Something's actually holding them in place. So they must have some kind of retaining clip to keep them from actually coming all the way out. So just know that once you loosen them up, they're going to be really loose, and they're not going to come completely out. The next step is I had to run out to AutoZone and get one of these hub pullers. I'm going to attach it right here, and then this whole assembly should come out. My suggestion is to definitely use this hub puller. There's some people on YouTube saying that you don't need it. There's other ways to do it, but I rented this from AutoZone. It was only $30. They'll give me my money back once I take it back. Make life easier on yourself, and just go rent it if you can. It will definitely make the job a lot easier. So the next the next part of this video. Once you see this hub should be coming out here in just a second. So here's the hub puller. Pretty simple device. You just put it on there, put your lug nuts on there, and then just tighten this right here. I'll start turning this and the hub assembly should come out, and I'll be doing that in just a second. So I took the hub assembly out. It was a little tough to take out. As you can see right here, the puller really did a job on the shaft here. It did come out, but I did use my impact wrench right here to do that. This hub assembly was real tough to get out. I was kind of worried a little bit that it was going to damage something, but eventually it did come out. I did have to spray some lubricant in here to help it come out. If you're going to do this manually with a ratchet, like a 1/2-inch drive or something, just know it's going to be a really tough job getting that out of there if it's the original. Even if it's not, I'm not sure it would be that easy to get out, but I'm just letting you know right now, for me, even using the impact right here, it was a little tough to it took a while to just kind of get it out. Aside from that, now I got the new assembly over here. Let me grab this here. The new assembly right here. Just gonna fit it in here, start bolting it and putting everything back together, pretty much in reverse order. I don't really see how this is gonna be a tough job if you have the right tools. You definitely have to have the 10mm Allen style wrench to get these out, and without a ratchet and a couple of different extensions, it's going to be almost impossible to get out of there. I did use a couple of different extensions in different places because the fit was really tight in there. I used this little short extension, and I had another one just like this one that I had to take off and put on depending on which bolt I was taking off in the back, just because of everything that's back there. But all I did was use two different extensions. This 10mm that I got from my brake hardware here. I bought this a long time ago, but it had all the tools I needed for that. Don't really need too many tools, but I definitely would recommend you get the hub puller and this 10mm, because if you're going to try to use anything else, you're going to make life difficult on yourself. But I'm going to start assembling this back together, and we'll see how this turns out here in a second. So I got the hub assembly back on there. I got the 4 bolts tightened up. A little difficult to put back on just because of the torque specifications. Are supposed to be, according to the sheet that I got, 217 foot-pounds. So it's a little tough to get 217 foot-pounds in awkward angles and stuff like that. But got it done. Got the that center nut put back in there. Got it all tightened up real tight. Got this locked in place right there so the nut doesn't come loose. Next thing is started putting the disc brakes back, and there's not too much left here, so that should take maybe another 5-10 minutes, and we'll see how things go. Alright, got the caliper put back in place. The 2 14mm bolts back here were the only thing I had to do to put this on there. The disc brakes themselves, the rotors, they just slide on, and the only thing that's holding them really is the disc brakes right here. The only reason they don't move too much is because once you tighten up the rim on here, eventually this is going to seize up around here, and so when you take the tire off, it's usually not loose like it is now. See, right now I can move it, but over time, when it develops rust and it starts to seize up a little bit right around in here, this right here, when you take the tire off, it's not really going to move anymore. That's why they made these bolts right here. So when you want to pop this off, because of the rust that happens around this axle here, these bolts are so you can pop this off. But initially, when you put the rotor on there, it is going to be loose, so it's not a big deal, because once you put the tire on, tighten this up, this is going to be aligned with the disc brakes, and it's going to be working the way it should be. So the last thing I got to do is just put the tire back on. I'm going to do the other side, but that's pretty much the whole process of taking this out. My biggest problem was taking this nut off. Like I said, when I first took it off, it gave me a headache, but I had the impact. Without the impact, I don't think I would have been able to do it. Between that and then pulling the hub assembly out without that tool, it would have been almost near impossible, at least for me. I don't know, maybe some other people have some better ideas on how to do this, but for me this worked. Like I mentioned earlier, I had the right tools, made my life a lot easier. If you don't have the right tools, see if you can borrow them. If not, you can rent them. Like I went and rented that puller from AutoZone for $30. So make your life easier. Keep yourself from getting cut up and banged up, and use the right tools. But that's the whole process. I'm gonna put the tire on, do the other side. But for this video, this is the end of the video for the hub assembly. Leave any comments or questions below, and hopefully you guys will learn something from it. If not, well, you know, I'm just putting this out there because I know a lot of people had posted a lot of videos on how to do this, and there were some things that I didn't like that I wanted to explain. Hopefully I explained everything, but good luck guys, and we'll see you on the next video. Okay, that's not the end of the video. I got a couple things that lessons learned that that happened after I installed the hub assembly and took the car out for a test drive. When I took the car out for a test drive, the ABS brakes, I had a bunch of ABS lights come out on the dash, and another thing, the speedometer didn't work. So what I figured out was that when I put the hub assembly back in place, what I didn't do was remove the sensor that was back there. There's a speed sensor that is really close to the back of the hub assembly when you're pushing it back in there. If it's just off a little bit, once you push that in, it's going to bend the sensor. So I would recommend is take a 10mm socket and remove the bolt that's holding it in place. Go ahead and take it out, take the sensor out before you put the hub assembly back in place. Otherwise, you're going to wind up bending it, and if that happens, it's going to have to be replaced. If you decide to go ahead and just leave the sensors in place, just be real careful that you do put that straight back into the assembly, because otherwise it's going to get damaged.